you believe that we started recording right in the middle of 2020 with all of the COVID and lockdowns going on around us, unable to meet up? So like many a young gentleman, we turned to the internet for our entertainment. Tried to find a place where we could meet up and talk about the good, the bad, and that time that Stu saw a pelican on the canal. In order to facilitate our dreams of answering all of the big questions in film, and after a few attempts at recording via other methods to various levels of success, we found Zencastr, a super easy web-based one-stop shop for recording. Log in and you're ready to record in a matter of seconds. It doesn't take a tech genius to get high quality audio or video. And on top of that, the one time we have had an issue, the fact that the multi-layered backups are stored locally means it's easily fixed all in browser. There are plenty of tools you need when you start podcasting, so let Zencastr take that headache away, as it offers a place to record, edit and distribute all from one website. Any lazy bones Jones can pick up and play and have studio quality audio or 4K video put out for the world to see when using Zencastr. Go to zencastr.com/pricing and use our code CAGEFIGHTING and you'll get 30% off your first month of any Zencastr paid plan. We want you to have the same easy experiences we do for all our podcasting and content needs. It's time to share your story. And now, hit the music. Hello and welcome to Cage Fighting. It's your main man, Andy Gillard here. Hope everybody's keeping well in the world right now.
Good morning, good evening, good night. Hello, everybody.
Stu, it's getting sunny out now. Like, it's not pitch black at 4 o'clock and it's actually really fucking sunny. What's going on? Is it shorts weather yet? Because it's still a little bit cold, I've got to say.
It is sunny if you get up at a normal time, like normal people. I left the house this morning at 5:20. It was still pitch black, of course. It was always also -2. So, in proper sensible world, I had a green parka, a Steve Ball season ticket hat that came free was it last year or the year before? And a burnt orange scarf and shorts.
Parker and shorts is certainly a look, isn't it?
Yeah, and carrying a mini chainsaw down the canal.
Fuck, you must have looked like a right nut job walking around like that.
I go, because I sent it to, because my buddy, there's other people aware of this game now, of, when's it going to be shorts time, etc., etc. So I thought, well, okay, when it is and when it isn't, I'll show you all. And so I tried to. I mean, the picture of my legs is blurry because there was people walking past. I thought, why would they think of me taking pictures of my legs on the canal? Yeah, you can. It's certainly a look.
Deary mate. We'll put these out on the socials. Like the one with you holding a chainsaw, you do look absolutely fucking freezing. But then you see, I can't even tell what trainers you're wearing in this picture, Stu, because it's that blurry.
They're £8 ones from Temu. Because I used to buy Caramel ones all the time, like every 6 months, like Caramel running shoes for work, because they're sturdy enough, and especially like gardening and stuff like that, you're walking a lot anyway. And I thought, well, if the last 6 months, it's 40 quid a time, no problem at all. Cheaper than the bus. But I saw these on there, and this was last year before Christmas, and they were cheaper than when I bought them last summer. And last summer I thought, well, they're £8. How bad are they going to be? And they came and they were comfortable. I thought, well, they can't be waterproof. So I went all Peppa Pig and splashed in a muddy puddle just to see. They were waterproof. I thought, well, if they last a month, don't they? It's an experiment. It's worth it. And they lasted 4 months, and they cost £8. And I thought, well,
job done.
I literally wear them to and from work. That's all I use them for.
Mm.
So it works. So, yeah, I think we've mentioned Temu this year, so there we are. There's a plug. Yeah, that's it is sunny. It's nice. It was nice and crisp, but definitely shorts weather already.
Yeah, it's good to see. I will be wearing shorts, probably shorts and a hoodie. I think I still need something a little bit up top to keep me a little bit warm when I go to the cinema tomorrow. Right, this week, Stu, we are here to do the second part of the first half of the 2020s. So this is where we're looking at the list from World of Real. This list is going to be the reader's choice of the best film of the last 5 years. I'll quickly run through the results. There are 30 films which have got at least 12 votes. So it's a little bit more varied than the critics one, but I don't think there were as many critics responding. So I suppose that's probably why.
Mhm.
A lot of these you'll have heard about last week, to be fair. So we've got Tar, Oppenheimer, Zone of Interest, After Sun, Banshees of Inisherin, Killers of the Flower Moon, Drive My Car, Worst Person in the World, Past Lives, Power of the Dog, Licorice Pizza, Poor Things, Red Rocket, Everything Everywhere. I'm thinking of ending things. Top Gun Maverick, Babylon, Holdovers, Another Round, The Father, Bowie's Afraid, Blonde, Dune, Fablemans, Pacification, which I've never even heard of, The Boy and the Heron, Bones and All, The Green Knight, Anatomy of a Fall, and Asteroid City in third place. Just after looking at that, Stu, how many of those films have you not seen? Because for myself, I've not seen Red Rocket. I haven't got round to. Yes, apparently that's really good. I'm thinking of ending things. I keep looking at because it's on Netflix, but I've not watched it. And this pacification, it's a portmanteau of Pacific and fiction. So it's pacifiction, pacifiction. Uh, It's a French film. I've never even heard of that one, let alone seen it. So
It's
there's just the 3 off that list for myself.
it's gonna be in black and white with a lot of armpit hair, isn't it? We all know this.
Yeah, I do hate French cinema, unless it's horror. They're quite good at horror now.
Looking at the 13, so just under half of them I haven't seen. A lot of that is through choice because I know now there's things that I'm just not for me. I'm just not going to enjoy them, and we'll get to this at some point this year when we do our experimental episode. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things on here. Like, I mean, the Green Knight, I hated that, and you loved it.
Yeah.
It didn't click with me whatsoever. Yet it's got all the ingredients of something that would. Fablemans, I liked. No one talks about it anymore.
Yeah.
Holdovers, talked about it enough. And Another Round as well. Is one that's kind of floated in the ether over the last few years for us.
Mm. I enjoyed that, and like there has been constant talk about them doing a American version, an English language one. I just don't think it needs it.
No, we've got the Hangover films. We've got things like that. There's nothing.
Yeah.
It's so Scandinavian it wouldn't work. A bit like the tunnel to the bridge. Didn't
Yeah.
work.
Yeah. I think with Another Round, because it's so set in Scandinavia, their attitudes to alcohol is completely different to the Americans, because it more than likely be a Hollywood film. And I just don't see how that's going to translate when the subject matter is basically a different language, let alone the fact that it is a different language. I just don't see it working, if I'm honest.
Yeah. You'd have to fundamentally change most of the film for it to even make sense.
Absolutely. Strange one that is. Anything else on there that you haven't and potentially want to see?
There's a few, to be honest. I mean, there's ones. Well, Drive My Car has come up quite a lot by quite a few people now.
I didn't love it. I found it overlong. I think it's like 3 hours 20, if I remember right. I didn't love it.
Then I like a long one sometimes. So I'm not really too fussed about that, but It depends if it keeps your interest or not. Blonde was on there before. I don't know why I never watched it. I don't know if I'd like it.
I saw it and it was shit. Like, I'm genuinely surprised it's on this list. I think it's a really boring film, and nobody talks about it. Like, I mean, I know Babylon's on this list, which is a film I fucking hated. But when you look on film Twitter, people seem to love that movie, so I sort of understand why it's there in spite of it being a terrible movie. I understand it does have its shooters out there, and I also know it has people caping for it. Nobody talks about Blonde. Nobody spoke about Blonde when it was fucking released on Netflix. So,
No.
like, who's talking about it in 2024 when this poll was done? I'm baffled by that one. Of all the films on here, I really, really don't understand its existence here.
Especially when there's stuff, again, like we talked about last week, all the ones from last week are applicable here. Things like Sound of Metal and The Five Bloods and stuff like that. But there's others ones, considering this is the people's choice, and yet it's not the normal people because they're doing a film survey. So
Yeah, this is like cineast's choice, I think, isn't it? Yeah.
But there's still a bit more of a kind of, it's still a bit more varied than it normally would be for the beard strokers, which you are as you stroke your beard.
Yeah.
But things like Uncut Gems is not on here.
What year was that though? That might just fall out of, was it? I wasn't sure if that might just fall out of the window, but yeah, that's a amazing film that people loved at the time and have spent the remainder of the time talking about how great a movie it is.
Les Mis as well, which you'd think would be right up there. That was 2020.
Was it? I thought that was earlier than that.
2020 for us.
Oh, okay.
Anyway. The Borat film, the second one. But there was ones like that we talked about quite a bit on here, like House of Gucci and Palm Springs, or the year after in 2021. Which you'd think that was a film that obviously I would automatically hate, and you tricked me into it in Palm Springs, but it actually worked really well, and I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I'd forgot that was going to be one point I wanted to raise. Like, there's very little actual out and out comedy on here. I know Beau is Afraid is on there, which is sort of comedy, but it's a fucking weird comedy. There's no like real out and out comedy as such. And for me, Palm Springs is arguably the best comedy of the last 5 years. Essentially. The one that's actually like a very well made film and comedy.
Yeah. We're talking about the obvious one from last year that Ash has seen it, hasn't he?
Ricky Stenicki, yes.
Yeah. But yeah, there's things on there that are like kind of funny in a way.
Yeah.
Like Everything Everywhere All at Once is funny in parts.
But
it's not a comedy, is it? So you probably are right. Or a depressing list this is.
Yeah, look, I'm just looking on, I've just Googled best comedies of the 2020s. I'm just looking through now. There are very few that have really cut through. My Old Ass, I did enjoy that, and we might touch on that in a bit. Thelma was excellent, but it probably didn't get the eyes on it that it deserved. Did you see Thelma?
No.
So it's an 80, I think she's 80 or maybe even in the 90s, and she it's basically if Die Hard happened to an 80, 90-year-old woman. So like when she's having to rush and she's driving high speed on her scooter and it's going like 2 miles an hour, but the way it's shot and the music and everything makes it seem like it's high octane. It's really well made. I genuinely think you'd love it, Stu. It's mental. But again, it was kind of small fry, especially in this country. I don't think it was even, I think it maybe had one night in the cinema on one of the unlimited releases. But yeah, a lot of the others, I mean, Triangle of Sadness was funny, but it also had like a serious edge to it. And I feel like a lot of the comedy, like the good stuff, Poor Things, was funny, but it also had more to it. So it's like a traditional out there comedy. I think Palm Springs probably is the one for me.
Yeah, and even that's not like a laugh out loud comedy, is it really?
No,
It's more of
no,
a humorous. Yeah. It's like when they used to call David Letterman a humorist.
yeah, yeah. I think that's the right description for it, isn't it? Humorous more so than comedic, potentially.
I mean, we've got an excellent comedy film coming up in about 40 minutes to talk about, but I mean that could make this list somehow.
I would be very surprised. I would be very. The other film that kind of surprises me, I like Wes Anderson, but I think that Asteroid City is probably his weakest film.
Yeah, I don't like it at all.
It didn't work for me on any level. Even as a fan of his, I was kind of bored throughout most of it.
Mm.
So again, I'm a bit surprised it's on there.
Yeah, I think even the most interesting thing about it was watching the kind of behind the scenes stuff where it was all miniatures.
Mm,
That was more interesting than the film.
yeah, I'd agree with that. To be honest, I like the look of his films. I know it's not for everybody. I like how they look. It was nice to see that behind the scenes. But I genuinely think I don't know if I'd say if it's his worst, but it's definitely one of his weakest in my opinion. So I'm not. I didn't love that one at all.
Oh, there's one. I mean, it doesn't count for this because it's 2025. But I know it's been touched on. I finally got around to watching Nosferatu.
Hmm.
Mm,
Did it
like
not?
not at all.
Okay.
I was
I'm surprised because I know how much you liked the Vivitch,
yeah,
and obviously it's both Robert Eggers. I thought that'd be well up your street.
yeah. Everything about it. I mean, I didn't hate it. I didn't hate it whatsoever. Um, I think it might have kind of suffered from overhype. Um,
Yeah, makes
I mean,
sense.
when I didn't even, I was that far out of it, and I stayed away from it from so long. I didn't even know Willem Dafoe was in it. That was a nice little surprise when he appeared. But yeah, I thought, oh, this is okay. This has been an okay 2 hours and 20 or whatever it is. I just thought it's not the sensation that people were making it out to be for me. But it's
Mm.
fine. But
Yeah,
it won't make a film of the year. But even that, there's nothing like that on this list really either. When you look at it, and there's like considering some of the things that we did have, what really is there? Like horror wise?
there isn't really. There's nothing that, yeah, in the horror realms that I think Bowie's Afraid is probably as close as we get to horror. I mean, I know Bones and All is about, I don't know if they're technically zombies, but they eat people and, but it's not really horror.
Mm.
It's a love story disguised in, you know, in the some of the tropes of horror, but I wouldn't say it's a horror as such.
Yeah, there's no Wonka either. Which
Yeah, I mean, that was really well reviewed, so I'm kinda surprised it's not I mean, whether or not it got 1 or 2 votes and didn't make this list potentially, but I would have expected it to have got something.
strange.
Anything else in there that, shocks you or potentially that you're happy to say, like, "I'm really happy that After Sun is in 4th place." I properly loved After Sun, and I think it's well deserving of being right up there.
I mean, just past lives again, like we talked about last week about it. I'm just glad it's got the love it deserves. There's a few. I'm not surprised that Top Gun Maverick made this list. I'm not surprised last week about that one, but it's good that we got big bombastic films like that in here. And Another Round pleased me, like I said, because we both love that film, and no one talks about it at all.
Yeah. I think on your point about Top Gun Maverick, and I know we touched on it last week, but Barbie not being in this list
Yeah.
is kind of baffling. I don't get that. And again, it sort of feels like it's a very film Twitter thing. Like I said, film Twitter loves Babylon, but it hates Everything Everywhere All at Once, which is why that's down in the middle of this list rather than at the top like it was for the critics. And I feel like Barbie's sort of gone through that. Film Twitter seems to embrace movies and loves them, and then you always get the people 6 months down the line who are like, "Oh, no, that was shit, actually," because of X, Y, and Z nonsense. And the odd choice that kind of feels like that here, that it's been a bit disregarded.
Hmm. I don't understand. I mean, but how long was Babylon? Was it over 3 hours?
It was, yeah, I think it was like 3 hours 10, something like that.
And it felt very much like 3 hours and 10. And I liked it.
3 fucking days.
I mean, I liked it a lot more than you did. But again, it felt very pretentious. And if you're saying that that's what film Twitter's like, then it's not a surprise.
Mm.
But Everything Everywhere All at Once was unique and different and special. And it's the exact kind of thing that people who pretend to be film critics, you'd imagine they'd like.
Yeah.
Baffling.
I think it's because people who pretend to be film critics liked it, but then Joe Schmo liked it as well. Like, just your average guy on the street also thought it was great fun. So like, oh, we can't have that. We've got to be different. It's got to be better than that. If average people can't like this stuff, that's kind of how it feels in some cases. You know, they turn their nose up at it, and it's kind of ridiculous at times.
I mean, there is one that, I mean, Saltburn, I kind of expected to be on this list,
Mm.
but maybe that suffers from the same thing as well, because he did get the whole Sophie Ellis-Bextor thing going crazy and it being a hit out of nowhere despite being a disgusting film.
Again, people on Twitter really dislike Emerald Fennell. Like, they think she's too, I don't know, too obvious in her work. But look, that's sort of what makes it appeal to people,
Yeah.
because it does have these moments with Sophie Ellis-Bextor, or you had the Paris Hilton song in Promising Young Woman. Like, you've got to be able to appeal than to just more pretentious arseholes. You need to be able to do more, and I think she does, and that's where I find her kind of interesting. So people are already pissing and moaning about her remake of Wuthering Heights, which is coming up with Jacob Elordi and Margot Robbie, because she's picking Margot Robbie and Jacob Elordi. And I thought, well, you've not even seen it. You're not even giving it a chance. You're just assuming because it's her and you have some strange issue. And part of it, I think, is one, she's a fairly attractive woman, and two, it's that she comes from money. So people are already turned off that there's that. Yeah, there's that going against her. So I think there are. Don't get me wrong, I don't think she's a perfect director. There are some small issues with her films, but to completely throw her work in the bin because of that just seems utterly ridiculous to me.
Hmm.
But that's film Twitter in a nutshell, to be honest.
Just a pylon.
Mm-hmm. It is. It is. No director has made this list for more than one film. I thought that was kind of interesting. I know we mentioned last week about Anora was the only film that made it onto the critical list within 2024. So that would mean that Red Rocket, Sean Baker, which is on this list, I think Anora probably would make this list if it was done again in 6 months' time. I expect Sean Baker might be one. Potentially Luca Guadagnino, because obviously he did Bones and All and Challengers last year. And Denis Villeneuve's in for June on this list. He might be in for June and June too. I don't know if people would vote for both. Personally, I don't know. But obviously that was a film that was very highly spoke of. So there aren't any directors as it stands who've got multiple films in this list. Which director do you think had the best 2020s though?
I mean, for me, it'd be Denis Villeneuve, easy.
Mhm.
To put out a 9 out of 10 and then perfect it was a 10 out of 10, which is what it was for me. with them two, and going. Like, I ventured into the evil world of Reddit earlier about this question just to kind of check, because I don't necessarily know everyone off the top of my head like you do. I mean, I can say now you will. Lathimos will be on your
Yorgos
list.
Lanthimos.
Yes.
He'll be up there.
Yeah, of course he will.
I like his work.
But I've only seen one of them films, so I can't really say to what extent. But I've seen both of Denny's films, and you look at the ones he did before 2020. I've seen the last 3 before that, without even realizing. I've turned into it's like the Nolan fanboy effect. But they are and I'm surprised that the weirdos haven't turned on him, because it is very populist. It is very. I suppose he ticks every box, but he does it so well that they can't argue it.
I think he has a little bit of outsider in him, because he didn't get nominated last year for the Oscars, the first film for the Oscars. And I don't think he's been nominated this year, has it? I know the film has, but he hasn't been nominated as Best Director. So he's still got that outsider cachet, I think, that makes people want to embrace him somewhat.
Yeah, no, I kind of agree with the first one. I think watching it back again after building that monstrosity, of Ornithopter in Lego that took 7 hours, I kind of got the urge again, and I started Dune Prophecy, which is all right, actually. I know obviously it's a prequel series, so you don't need any knowledge, but it helps. And he's got a hand in that, of course, but the first one is very good. It's not as good as, that's probably the 5th time I've seen it now. It's not as good as when I watched it first time around, but the second one is a masterpiece, and just for that alone, that he deserved more recognition for that one, definitely.
Yeah, I am kind of surprised he's not involved in more of the Oscar shouts this year. I do think he deserves more. Technically, I think that film is fantastic. It's not a 10 for me, but I did enjoy it considerably more than the first one. But yeah, I do feel like they definitely deserve a bit more recognition. Yorgos Lanthimos, he's probably my second. Kinds of Kindness was good. I don't think it was amazing. It was like 2 hours 44. It was a little bit too long. It's like 3 stories that sort of meet somewhere in the middle. It was clever. I loved Poor Things. I thought Poor Things were fantastic, and Mark Ruffalo in that gives one of the best performances. I didn't realize he had that in his locker. He was that good.
Well,
so yeah.
So with Mark Ruffalo, no one, despite me constantly talking about Dark Waters, no one goes and watches it. But he's, as a serious role, he's exceptional in that. And you think, oh yeah, you've seen him as Banner for the last 12 years or however long it's been, and you expect him to be that kind of bumbling fool, and not really, not at all.
I mean, to be fair, looking at his filmography, pretty much everything I've seen him in, he's been really good. I just haven't seen him in a massive amount of things, but every time I've seen him, I've come away thinking, yeah, you can actually act, mate. You're decent, but it's just not seeing him in enough, I think, is the thing. Like Spotlight, he was fantastic in Spotlight, but it's just not having enough of the backup. Same with Foxcatcher, again, another really good performance, but I think the Hulk thing just kind of overshadows his career, unfortunately. Oh yeah, so the director that I think actually has had the best 2020s for me, it kind of surprised me, but Steven Spielberg. Even at this point in his career, Fabelmans, West Side Story.
Oh, of course, yeah.
2 of the best films of each of their years. They're both, I mean, I think Fabelmans would have been just outside my top 5, but West Side Story I thought was an absolute masterpiece. I'm amazed that's not in either of the lists. I've never really been a massive Spielberg fan, but this late stage Spielberg, give me more. I'm invested in what he's doing.
Colin Farrell was on with Jimmy Fallon the other week. Well, I saw it though. I don't know if it's an old interview or not, but he was talking about how he was a kid Well, a kid, he was like 22, first getting into things. And Spielberg had asked to see him, in his dressing room. So he was waiting there, and he gave him, I think it was a tuna baguette or something, or a tuna melt. He gave him half his sandwich, and they just talked about things. And he said, so I had half of Steven Spielberg's sandwich, and obviously this was like one of my heroes and stuff like that.
Mm.
And he was like, yeah, I couldn't believe it. That's the only time I've been properly starstruck.
I could imagine.
He says the usual ones, and like Klaus and Kentries and all that stuff, especially with his age. I mean, how old is Colin Farrell? About 50, 52 now, something like that?
Something like that. I think he's got to be early 50s. Potentially
he's-
late 40s, but yeah.
Because he was obviously on there for Penguin, but yeah, how he talks in awe of Spielberg. Even people in the industry, I know he's a bit different to everyone else, Colin Farrell, but still, he doesn't bullshit, does he? He doesn't play the game. So for someone like him to be talking about him like that, you gotta be something special. I mean, I've always been like, I don't hate Schindler's List like you do, and
Oh no, I like Schindler's List. It's AI's the one for me. Like he does have this this issue, especially like his 90s work. He just doesn't know how to edit his fucking films. Like these films just go on and on. I just think you need to cut. Like Saving Private Ryan was good, but it would have been better if it was half an hour shorter. Like you just need a better editor to bring some of these films into shape. Is my issue with a lot of his work. I quite like Schindler's List, but I've only ever been able to watch it once. It's one of those where I'm like, I don't think I ever want to see it again because it was just, yeah. Apparently, this is just to go off topic for a minute. Hook is the film that Steven Spielberg thinks is his worst film. I love Hook. I mean, he's wrong there, surely, isn't he?
yeah, but I think this might be one of these. We watched Hook when we were kids, kind of thing. If you watched Hook now, would you love it as much? I don't know. I haven't seen it for a good 20 odd years, probably. But I remember we had it on video. We used to watch it all the time. But it was one of them. I never went to DVD either or anything. Is it even on anything? I presume it'd be on Disney Plus or something.
I assume so, but I'm not 100%.
But yeah, no, it always seemed fun to me.
I loved it at the time, and I did watch like not all of it. It was on TV, and it was like the feast scene where Robin Williams, where he finally remembers who he is, and it just seemed really fun and lovely. And I thought I'm kind of surprised that he hates it so much, because there are definitely other films that I didn't enjoy as much. As I say, Artificial Intelligence, I thought stunk shit.
Yeah,
Catch Me If You Can, I wasn't massively blown away with that either.
it's on Prime.
Right, okay. The Terminal, War of the Worlds, I never got round to that one, but I heard that was pretty bad. So like, he does have a few stinkers in there that I just that Hook definitely isn't one of them for me.
I mean, Hook is a better film than Jewel. And
Yeah.
obviously Jewel's his first film, so he's not going to hate that. But as a film, it's pretty awful.
Yeah, it's not great by any stretch, is it?
So I'd heard about it, like it was like some kind of underground thing. Yeah, I've got this VHS of Jewel. Do you want to rent it? It was, I remember the first time I watched it, I thought, "Is that it?"
It's kind of, it's almost got that that reputation of like bad taste by Peter Jackson.
Yeah,
and it's not. It just isn't.
and the THX, George Lucas.
Yeah. Ready Player One. See, I enjoyed it at the time, but having read the book and then gone back, I'm like, actually, this isn't that good a film.
Yes, but see, this is what I always say about this. It's an adaptation. You judge it on its own merit, and you liked it on its own merit, but then you've clouded your mind by something better.
Yeah, I did, but also watching it back, like you do start to see the holes in the film, like it doesn't join up all that well. So as an adaptation of the book, I don't think it's particularly strong, but also I just don't think it's a particularly strong film at all in repeat viewing.
I mean, I've only seen it once,
Mm.
and it was another one of them. It was how well you always moan about with the Marvel stuff, that if you don't know what this stuff is, then you're not going to get anything out of it.
Yeah. Yeah,
Re-
that I think that's fair, to be honest.
But because I do, I love it. So it's one of them because I remember it. Who watched it with me? When did that come out?
18? Yeah, 2018.
Yeah, so it might have been Robbie. Well, he wouldn't have been Ethan; he was too young. But even so, saying that, so he would have been 116-ish. He had no idea some of the references in that film.
I can imagine.
This is made for us again.
Very much so. I mean, in fairness, the book is very much made for us. A lot of the references. I mean, some of them are a little bit older than us because they talk about like the original, the Japanese Spider-Man, Spider-Man, and all that kind of stuff, which is it's kind of cool when you know it, but it's probably like older millennials, I think, is where it's really pitched at.
Yeah.
The inclusion of Beau is Afraid on this list. That surprises me, not because it's not a great film, because I genuinely think it is. But it's a very, very self-indulgent film that really is only going to be appealing to fans of Ari Aster. Like, I can't imagine if you don't know Midsummer and Heretic, and even potentially stuff like his short film work, Strange Things About the Johnsons, which is almost as fucked up. Actually, it might be more fucked up than the other stuff that he's done. I don't know what you'd get out of Beau is Afraid. It's really odd that it's this high up on the list.
Yeah. And like you just mentioned then about the Vitch. I know it's not Ari Aster, but still, if you're not into that kind of weirdness, but going into it and you went in completely blind, like, well, I know someone who did. I'm not going to mention him, Cheryl. We were talking about it the week after, and I had no idea what was going on. I don't understand it, and she had no idea. Had no idea that this kind of subgenre of weirdness even existed. So
I can completely, yeah, because
I mean,
it's weird, really, really weird.
and there was times. I mean, that was another long one as well, and
Yes, that was just under 3,
yeah,
2 hours 59. Yep.
and it felt like I remember talking about this at the time, and it felt like 3 films jammed together.
Mm-hmm. And it very much was, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was like a proper first act that was almost self-contained, and same for second and third acts. Yeah.
And you don't really see that of it very often. But I remember hating it and loving it at the same time. It was a very strange feeling, that film. But again, it's almost like he's gone too. This is what happens when you give people too much rope. Like he needs to be told. But then if you tell him, then you restrict the genius. Is it genius, or is it's genius and insanity at the same breath? Ain't so. He can't make another one like this. You know, the next one's going to be more normal.
Well, the next one is a film called Eddington. We're getting it later this year, apparently. Let me just rearrange my screen so I can still see you. Eddington is an upcoming American contemporary Western film, written and directed by Ari Aster, starring Joaquin Phoenix, our boy Pedro, Emma Stone, Luke Grimes, Austin Butler, Deirdre O'Connell, Michael Ward, and Clifton Collins Jr. It is scheduled to be distributed by A24. The plot follows a small-town New Mexico sheriff with higher aspirations. We know next to nothing about this film, but that is a hell of a cast.
Yeah, that's all you need. You don't need to see any teasers. Don't need to hear anything else. First week.
Yeah. I mean, I'd be there regardless for Ari Aster because I've really enjoyed everything he's given us.
Mm-hmm.
But also, like I say, Phoenix, Pedro, Emma Stone, Austin Butler, they're all actors who've got a track record of producing really good movies. So I can't wait to see it. Plus, I kind of like the Western genre, even though we don't really get a lot of them in the modern day, without talking about the old way again from last week.
You know what? Talking about being first week release, I checked on there for my voice broke then talking about Captain America. I went on there to book for next week because he's bringing that out on Valentine's Day. They know exactly what they're doing, don't they? The old warriors, the old singletons, the gooners, go out on their own. And so I look, and there is no super screen showing that first weekend of Captain
Oh.
America.
Is there something else on that weekend? I'm just on the Cineworld app now, and the first thing that comes up is there are 2 plastic cups, one with Red Hulk and one with Black Cap on there. There's a Shield bucket and a popcorn container that is Red Hulk, and it looks atrocious.
Exactly.
And
This is
38 quid. Fucking mentalists.
where does this stuff even go to? Does anyone even use this stuff afterwards, or does it just get left in the cupboard like them glass Coke glasses that everyone had from the 90s?
Quite possibly it just falls by the wayside.
But yeah, the only one they had that is Screen X /2D, so I presume that's just with the side ones off.
No, that'll still have the side ones. It's just you won't need 3D glasses.
Oh, for fuck's sake. I'm not doing that then. Yeah, 2D or 4DX. There's no super screen.
I'm just looking now, and they've got 3 showings of Bridget Jones' Mad About the Boy on the super screen.
I mean, it's hardly a surprise, is it? Especially,
I suppose because of it being Valentine's Day,
yeah.
but that is a weird film to be pushing on the super screen, because I can't imagine that movie will particularly benefit from having a massive screen.
But it'll benefit from the extra £3 from the casuals who go out because it's Valentine's Day to watch Bridget Jones. So from a business point of view, you can see exactly what they're doing.
Potentially, but I would have thought maybe evening rather than the 1:20 showing.
Well, that's what I thought. I thought there might be one in the afternoon. But no.
No, I'm looking at like the Monday now at this point, and the Monday it's still Bridget Jones' Mad About the Boy is still on the super screen at 10:20. That's an early one for a Monday. Interesting. But yeah, it looks like there's no. Oh well, at least I'll know to avoid the cinema on Valentine's Day.
But did you see that stuff about the Gooner side on Twitter? But we completely missed this. Apparently, Gooner means something completely different. It's not just an Arsenal fan. So
Oh yeah, it doesn't mean like a simp, like someone who like yeah.
it's like a super wanker or something like that.
Right. Okay.
But there was this guy who drove through a drive-through with no trousers and pants on. Yeah, but they were filming obviously because of America.
Yeah.
And the footage went viral, and he ended up killing himself.
Holy shit.
Yeah, so they're calling it the Gooner side, which is, and there was obviously it's in a college town, and so all these people like held a funeral, like a Gooner funeral for him, and it was shouldn't.
A Gooner funeral. So is this like, is this them playing Limp Bizkit or something, do you think?
I've no idea.
Stood around having a wank or something?
But there were people taking it too far. They went to that drive. It was a drive. Have you heard these places? This coffee place that gets served by women in bikinis.
No.
Yeah, there's a coffee place.
New to me.
There's a coffee place that serves people in bikinis. I think it might be in Phoenix where Nate is.
Right, okay.
Coffee bikini place. Bikini Girls Coffee. Yeah.
It's a clever name.
But yeah, it was basically one of these.
Right, okay.
And so
Beanie
someone went,
Girls coffee. Jesus, wet.
and someone went, and it was harassing. Oh, you killed him. It's your fault.
God.
These things can't get any worse.
It's too many people spending too many hours on the internet and not actually meeting real human beings.
Yeah.
I'm on the Instagram now. That was a mistake.
Bikini baristas. It's a thing. Job titles. Years of experience.
Incredible. In fact, I don't want that much interaction when I go for a coffee. Just give me the black stuff and then leave me alone. Don't talk to me. Back to the film list. Timothée Chalamet is the only actor on this list whose name I think is starring in more than one film. Obviously, he is in Dune, and he's also the star in Bones and all. I think that Timothée Chalamet is going to be like the next generation of the actor who only gives Oscar-worthy performances. Like, you know how there was De Niro in the 70s and 80s, DiCaprio, Denzel, Tom Hanks. Like, these guys only give the best. Like, I know De Niro, sort of late day De Niro, very different to early day De Niro. This guy, Timothée Chalamet, to me feels like he's going to be the next one who is a proper artiste actor. Do you think that's right? Like, has he got that in his locker to be like the dominant actor for the next generation?
I mean, he's young. He's more than young enough. Let's put it that way. He's got
1995. The fucker was born. He's not even 30 yet.
And you look at him, and even when he's doing adverts, he does adverts properly. You think, yeah, you're living life here. But no, I know exactly what you mean. He's got our boy Glenn Powell, just having a great old time. But if you want to bunch them together, he could easily be the Brad Pitt of his generation, I suppose.
He's the movie star. Like,
Yeah.
he's got the looks. He's suave and cool and everything. But he's not going to be. He's not going to be Bob Dylan, for example, is he?
No, but he's not got the bell end factor either so far.
Yeah.
He hasn't been tainted with it all.
Mm.
But there isn't another one that kind of jumps off the pages as to say, yeah, maybe Butler, maybe.
Mhm.
In time.
I think in 5 years' time or so, I think he'll be in the conversation that Timothée Chalamet is in now.
Yeah, but
Because every De Niro's got to have a Pacino, haven't they? Like, I could obviously see them in 5-10 years' time battling it out as the two big actors.
Yeah. There isn't anyone that screams from the pages there. And so when that happens, you think, well, who actually does? And he does. So you probably are right.
Yeah. And like you said, like doing the commercials and stuff as well. He was on Saturday Night Live hosting that. He's got the comedy chops, though. I think like I could see him doing something kind of funny, kind of silly. I just don't think we'll ever see into that on film. I think he'll save that for the adverts and stuff and interviews. Like, he does come across really well for someone so young.
Maybe. But maybe, do you need to have a certain stash of films behind you before you start doing comedy stuff to be taken seriously? Because
Potentially.
if you go comedy too early, then it kind of, you get typecast a bit.
I mean, that's kind of what happened with De Niro, isn't it? It wasn't until late 90s that he started to look to Meet the Fockers and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So maybe there is a case of, I'll get the tortured artist out of my system before doing the more comedic roles.
Yeah, because I mean, you look at someone like, I mean, he's probably too old for this, like Jeremy Strong, who's like, he's obviously the breakout star of the last 3-4 years from pretty much nowhere, really.
His career was like, he's always been a solid enough actor, but I feel like his career was very much winding down before Succession, and that just dragged him back into the spotlight.
You go from Succession and you think, well, can he actually do anything else? And then you look at how good he is in The Apprentice.
I think Sebastian Stan's another one as well, who's probably in this conversation.
Yeah. But he hasn't been affected by the Marvel. Well, no, he's not even that many of them, is he, really? But yeah, I mean, you go from The Apprentice to being in a vat of molasses. Is he sitting in that Dunkin' Donuts advert?
It's very good.
And he's playing it completely straight as well. Yeah, he's got potential, but he's probably not. He's a generation. He's half a generation older, isn't he? So he's unfortunately for him. But then he's a late bloomer. Something in
Yeah. Another actor who I think has the potential to go down as a revolutionary, a bit of a legend in the game, is Margot Robbie. Like, I think we'll see a much more varied filmography from her. Like, we'll see some super serious Oscar-worthy excellence from her, but I also think we'll get the light and the comedic sides too. But what I think will set her apart from everybody else is her work as a producer. Like, she's given us everything, all kinds of films. She's given us like Oscar-worthy winning films like Promising Young Woman, Barbie she was producing, but she's also given us sitcoms like Dollface, weighty dramas like Maid with Margaret Qualley. So I think Margot Robbie, I think she'll be running Hollywood by 2040. I think she found that there's more to being an actor than being an actor. Like, you can help everyone else and push yourself forward at the same time with production. I think her, and potentially Emma Stone, I think, is another one who's going to be going that route.
Yeah. They're not the women who look a certain way that are not bogged down by the fact that they look like that. When, if you go back, 25, 30 years, would you see Nicole Kidman doing this? Probably not really.
They were sex pots, and that was everything that they really were at that point, I think.
And the closest is probably Charlize Theron, Monster, and stuff like that. And obviously when she did proper work in Fast and Furious. Yeah. Is that this year as well? Do we know?
It hasn't even started fucking filming.
Oh no.
Yeah. What's her name? Jordana Brewster had put an Instagram post out about it the other day, trying to get them to start filming it this year and do it in LA. Yeah, do it in LA. And then, like, Vin responded with something about family, like he always does, because he's got nothing else in his life.
Why can't he just be a song? Remember that song that he released when it was actually not shit?
That was a fucking belter, that was. That was pandemic times, wasn't it?
Yeah. No one had anything else to do, so he thought he'd be a singer.
That's what he should do. Whilst other people are writing Fast and Furious, he should cut an album.
Yeah. Feel like I do. It's class.
What's Jingy? Yeah, that is rage shit.
Just because I'm looking at little Lego Vin there. But yeah, I was going to say she's a female Mel Gibson, but she's not mad yet. But she does seem to not really care what people think of her either. And there's something to be said about that.
Yeah. It's putting the job first, isn't it? I think is how they do it. And it works. And I think it will bring them rewards and riches outside of just being an actor. Which I think, yeah. Big fan of what she's done and what she's been producing. Old Margot, tremendous. Any differences that particularly spring out between this list and the critical one, or even potentially similarities that has kind of surprised you?
I mean, when you look at it, I'm quite surprised how similar a lot of it is. There's a lot of the same. I know I said that people playing at being critics.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of things in there that are in the same kind of bunch. Like, you've got Oppenheimer and Tar, or whatever that is. And you have got things like Killers of the Flower Moon, which is pretty high on that list. But Licorice Pizza, Poor Things, Everything Everywhere All at Once, they're all the same kind of thing. And I have to check. I did this last week. I have to double check which list I was reading
Yeah,
because
got that.
they are very, very similar. And like I said earlier, the only thing I'm kind of shocked about is the fact that there's no real, like, there's no casuals in there. There's no things like The Northman, which I didn't particularly like that much, but a lot of people
Mhm.
did like it.
Yeah,
And I know it's kind of like, oh, it's a dearth of fantasy era, and we haven't we're in kind of lull for swords at the minute. But still, it wasn't
Mm.
brilliant, but people did love it, and obviously not these people.
yeah. Yeah, I'm a little bit surprised that there isn't a Dungeons and Dragons-esque film in there.
And that was
Something that was a great popcorn film that maybe didn't break through to the mainstream, but is properly loved, even in spite of that.
I mean, when I watched that film expecting the absolute worst, because
Same.
why would you not after all this time, especially the U-Bowl films?
Yeah.
But it was it was a good laugh,
Mm.
a bit like a lot of the Netflix films that we talked about a few weeks ago.
Mm.
How they've got a certain formula of the silliness.
Yeah.
There's none of that on this list, which was kind of surprised me. A bit like what we were saying with the comedy earlier.
Mm.
There's no real silly films in there. The closest you get is Top Gun Maverick, and that is just a brilliant film anyway, regardless.
Yeah. That's the only one I'd say is like a popcorn movie.
Yeah.
You know, the rest aren't really, are they? They're all think pieces. Like, I'm comparing the top 4 from the critics and the general audience. Tar, Oppenheimer, Zone of Interest, and After Sun for the general audience. The critics are Oppenheimer, Tar, Everything Everywhere All at Once, and The Zone of Interest. So both of the top 4 have got 3 of the same films. That did surprise me a little bit, and I sort of get it with Oppenheimer because, as we said last week, like we've both said, it probably is the best film of the last 5 years.
Easily.
But Tar just surprised me. I know it was liked because it was Oscar nominated, but it was a little bit divisive. Like, some people really liked it, some people really didn't like it. I fell in the latter camp. It was nearly 3 hours and probably 2 hours, 15 minutes too long. Like, it just didn't do anything for me. So I'm surprised to see it top.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised to see it there because, like I said, some people loved it, but I just didn't think it was all that. Strange.
No, it didn't appeal to me whatsoever, that film, unsurprisingly.
I'd say to watch it, I think you would like the ending, but the problem is you have to sit through 2.5 hours to get there. So I wouldn't recommend it, but I liked the message and I liked the third act. I didn't particularly care about the first or second acts though, and it's such a long haul to get there that it's probably not worth it, and I don't think you would enjoy it for that.
Yeah. And she's another one, Kate Blanchett. She's got that kind of vibe that we was on about with Margot Robbie. Who she can do serious, but then she can do utter shit like Borderlands. Even though she had a great old fight.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd completely forgot about Borderlands.
Oh no, and
I kind of want
every time
No.
every time the game comes up, I just get reminded of how bad that film was.
It wasn't great, was it? I think it was because I didn't see it at the cinema. I think that's why it means nothing to me. If I'd sat there through the cinema, I'd have been pissed. But being able to watch it at home, it didn't really annoy me quite as much.
Otherwise, it's Megalopolis for again, a few weeks' time.
What I felt. I forgot what else I was going to say then. Was it about... no, I can't remember. That's gone. I'm sure it'll come back to me at some other point. Right. Okay. So the next part of the podcast, we are going to be talking about Nicolas Cage's The Retirement Plan. So if you wait right there, we'll be right back. Welcome back. Right. The Retirement Plan. This is a film from 2023. Yep, 2023, released movie starring Nicolas Cage, Ashley Greene, Ron Perlman, Jackie Earle Haley, Ernie Hudson. That's a good cast, isn't it?
It's a good cast. It's a film that I wanted to watch for for the entire time since it's been released, just by looking at the poster. And when it comes down to it, I'd forgot that Ernie Hudson was in it, so that was a nice little surprise seeing his name. The fact that Nicolas Cage gets a special name reveal at the start of the film, where his name spins around for no reason at all.
That made absolutely no sense. I thought, that's cool. They're going to show all their names backwards and spin them around. That's interesting. No, just Nick's. Nobody else. What the fuck was that about?
And I mean, there's things with this film that are borderline genius, and yet there's others. I mean, what it had to keep kind of snapping. I mean, it made me jump, one of them, where it snapped to tell you what the character's name was.
Yeah. You just weren't expecting it.
Yeah. It was like, why?
Very strange. Yeah, it was kind of baffling, this one was. So it follows Ashley, who becomes a getaway driver for her husband Jimmy. After Jimmy's capture, Ashley and her daughter Sarah seek help from Ashley's estranged father, Matt. In the Cayman Islands, they are pursued by a crime boss and his men. Matt and Ashley confront their past and fight to protect Sarah. That's the film in a nutshell, I suppose. I remember the absolute batshittery of Season of the Witch with Ron Perlman and Nick Cage together. I was really like, it wasn't a great film, but I enjoyed their interplay. It was fun nonsense. You throw in Jackie Earle Haley, who we know gives big performances. Again, not always necessarily good, but they're usually something to behold. And Ernie Hudson too. I thought we were going to be in for some fun with this movie. I really did.
Oh, and we were. The more it went on, the more I liked it, which is
I was the opposite.
a very rare thing to, because it's when it started and it looks a bit. I don't know, because it's not quite as silent, and it's not some of that shit that we watched last year, that we got sent to us. That was just, it was obviously like a student budget. But then,
What, like the fall of the Roman Empire?
yeah, that one with one of the birds of a feather. Yeah, it wasn't quite that bad, but there were times where you think, this is like, are these actual actors, or have they found them on the street?
You know what? It looked like Benidorm.
Yeah, yes, it did.
Yeah,
Because
that was the level we were dealing with.
it didn't look like a film for
No.
large parts of it. That's probably what it was, like some lens nonsense or something.
Mm.
It was shot in a very strange way, it's probably cheap way. But there was like some things where, like where he walks out when he's on the balcony, and then he walks in, and then Ron Perlman walks out. I thought, oh, that was quite good. I like that.
Mm.
Things like that. I thought, oh, this has got. If this was just done properly and it wasn't just a piss take, then there was a good idea here. But then, I mean, it'll come on to the crazy later, so I'll mention it then, some of the things that go on. But it's both, well, that's it could easily be in the bottom 5 of the worst films that we've seen. But for sheer enjoyment, it could have sneaked into my top 5 in the first couple of years of doing this podcast, because I did have an amazingly fun time watching this. Probably because this is the exact kind of stupid nonsense that I used to love, and we don't get enough of them, as we've said a lot of the last few years. And so when one does come along like this, you got to kind of go with both hands and appreciate it for what it is. But well, the whole premise of it, like, you send this girl, just put her on a plane, send her to somewhere where you don't even know if this bloke's even there.
Yeah.
So I know we have to kind of suspend our disbelief. And then how many times do they have to say hard drive in this film?
Yeah, I mean, there were times I kept forgetting what they were talking about and like what the actual why we were in this film, what was going on. And then every time there's like hard drive, oh, okay, oh, that's what we're here. But they did keep bringing it up to make sure that you didn't get too lost in it, or at least switch off, because I don't think there was a lot to get lost in. But it just felt a little bit. They did push the, as you say, the suspension of disbelief. Like she just bangs her daughter on a plane to go to her dad, who she hasn't spoke to for a fucking lifetime, in the hopes that he's there. Like we don't even know if he's, or she doesn't even know if he's there. She's just hoping that she ends up in the right place. It was all a little bit bizarre.
Like, yeah, he might have this name and he might have a different name.
Yeah. But I think you made a good point about if we'd have watched this film early doors, because I didn't particularly enjoy this, but I feel like we've been on a fairly rich run of Nick Cage films I've really got into and know nothing about, and they've surprised me. Whereas this felt like if it had come when we were watching the early, sillier stuff, this would probably have fit in a lot more, and I might have enjoyed it more back then than I did now.
Yeah, if this would have come like around mom and dad and stuff like that.
Mm. Yeah, I think you've made a good point there that I probably hadn't considered.
But
Yeah.
it's just weird that it was like 18 months ago and not from back then. It's like
Yeah,
it's like a throwback.
feels like the lost years, doesn't it, this? It's
Yeah.
the I need money for my divorce years.
But I mean, my big gripe was it's not a hard drive; it's a pen drive,
Yeah.
or a flash drive. If you want to be technical, it is not a hard drive. The fact that they even argue about that as well. They're in the car and they're arguing about it on the driveway.
Absolutely ridiculous.
Like it's proper stupid henchmen as well. Which
Yeah,
you're
they
not
wouldn't have
stupid-
been out of place in Roadhouse, would they? Like, they feel like they fit in that period of time. I did like that. That bit did make me laugh when they were in the van towards the end and the one guy doesn't get a gun. So he just throws a fucking grenade. Like, I don't know why, but that really that comes on to the good. Like, I did think it was kind of amusing in parts.
Yeah.
I don't know if they always meant to be funny, but I did find myself laughing at a couple of parts. And I also thought that the fight scenes were pretty decent.
Mm.
There was the odd bit of quite dodgy CGI, but
The guns.
you know, the guns, Perlman's blood with the arrow thing, like that looked horrific. But the fight scenes, for the most, looked pretty decent, I thought.
Yeah.
Or at least believable enough to, that you're okay with this film.
There was that strange, like you mentioned the CG. I mean, CG was piss poor, as you expect. Well, there was the one where he's kind of dragging him through the bush, and there's a muzzle flash just going off.
Yeah.
What's going on? But so now you say about the fight scenes, all the headshots and everything, they're really well done.
I was kind of surprised because, I mean, it had a 20 million budget, so not really a massive amount for a film in this day and age that's got people of the caliber that are in this film. So 20 million is not a lot. The fire, when they set fire to the car, I'm pretty certain there was like a good foot between the actual fire and the car. Like, you felt like the CG was really shittily done at that point.
Yeah. But then they spent all that time and effort lighting him like he was standing next to fire.
Yeah.
So why
They did.
Why don't you just use fire?
Yeah, that would have surely been easier. Just pay someone to be on set with a fucking fire extinguisher. Job done.
But the whole subplot and everything, that was just strange. And how it was all wrapped up in a kind of Murder, She Wrote way at the end.
It was like I did almost expect to hear the Murder, She Wrote music and the tapping of the typewriter from the entrance. It's just odd. What was your good, bad, crazy? What, any of them that you got?
I mean, the crazy was the fact that he made this film so that he could hang out with Ron Perlman.
Did you really?
A #1 listing on IMDb trivia page. He made this film so he could hang out with Ron Perlman. Not because it was a good idea or a good film, just so he could
Just
hang
meet
out with
his
his
mate.
friend.
That's kind of cool because they've only done season of The Witch together, I
Yeah.
think. Because my crazy is that obviously Nick Cage, Ron Perlman, Jackie Earl Haley. It kind of feels like we never actually saw them on screen at the same time together.
Mm.
It was always they'll show Cage and then they'll cut and show Ron Perlman. It almost felt like they filmed their scenes independently and just edited it together. I almost felt like they had 3 separate schedules. And then they just worked it out in post-production. It doesn't feel like they're actually together on this film, which makes it feel really disjointed.
Yeah, I suppose so. Because he's probably has more scenes with the girl who, again, a good child performance. The second
Quite
film,
understated, wasn't it? Yeah.
yeah, she was really good. So that like when they're having that Othello talk in the bedroom, I thought it's quite sweet.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh, that you keep your word," and all that kind of stuff. Oh, that yeah, you could kind of see it coming a mile off, but still, it was a nice little thing. But then you have, because that's why I think it's even labelled as a comedy anyway on IMDb. So, and there's no way it's serious at all. Because there's certain things, like I said about the headshots, great. But then you got Ron Perlman falling into the water. It looks like it's deliberately taking the piss.
Mm.
But
Yeah.
then other times it's not. So you kind of like double guessing yourself about what you're supposed to be.
Well, that's it. 'Cause even though it's comedy, it's not Naked Gun comedy. Like, it's
No.
not.
But
How
at times it
But it
is.
feels it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, it's not good. Like, I mean, my bad would be mentioning how disjointed it felt. It kind of felt like he was a little bit too jumpy. Like, we had the whole bit at the start where the guy dies, then it jumps to the kid running off, and then they're coming to Cage, and then the daughter turns up, and then Ernie Hudson appears over an hour into the film, randomly. And then this happens, and that happens, and there's the MacGuffin. We can't forget about the MacGuffin that they're all there for. Then they're on a boat, and then the end. It didn't flow, this film. Like, there was lots of little bit, jump to here, little bit, jump to here. I found that quite difficult to watch.
Mm. Yeah, and you had all the title cards coming up saying like Washington DC, and then was it some little hideaway or something like that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so you're going from one thing being serious, and then another you are playing Naked Gun,
Mm.
and like when it just cuts to that office block, and they do kind of constantly introduce characters throughout the film, which is
Yeah.
probably maybe that's why they put the bangs on, because maybe they were, if they showed this to anyone and it was a bit of feedback, like we need to know who these characters are or what their names are, because it doesn't make any sense.
That would make sense if it was feedback, because it is very bizarre the way it's done.
Because they're not even, it's not like a snap zoom or anything, is it? It's just a freeze frame
Mhm.
with a name up top. So it could have been done in post easily.
Yeah.
So that wouldn't surprise you at all. It's the rotating Cage name doesn't make any sense. That there's no explanation for that. Well, I fully expected when it started, like last week. I never brought it up last week. We were talking about the old way. The film doesn't start for 1 minute and 27 seconds. Nearly 90 seconds of title cards, because there was that many people making that film. This one, straight in there.
Yeah.
No messing about.
Yeah, straight in, wasn't it?
And I think that was why I like this film, because it is the exact kind of stupid nonsense that I love.
Mm.
And I know it's silly, and I know it's bad, and yet I know exactly who to say would like this film.
Well, the next question is, did you enjoy it? Would you recommend it? So
Yeah, and for some, bizarrely, yes, I did enjoy it, and not just because it was stupid and it was just bang bang and all this kind of thing. But I know people who it's like what we used to call a kebab film. But when we get back from a match on a Saturday night, had a few beers, you get to the chip, you get a kebab, have a few cans, watch some nonsense like Machete or something like that, and then watch Match of the Day at night. That's what that was a proper Saturday. And
Yeah, I get
this kind of film is what that is. Like Ultimate Force was for TV.
Yeah.
This is what that is. That fills hour and a half gap of nonsense. Although it's hour and 40, but you get the idea.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was enjoyable shit. And then when the bad, we've already said, the CG was bad, the pacing was bad, a lot of the acting was terrible. And so all of these things adding up should not work. But for some reason they do.
It did the job. For myself, I like, it wasn't outright awful, but I wouldn't say I enjoyed it. I did find it a bit of a struggle in parts to sort of keep watching, because I did get a bit bored every half an hour or so. I was a bit like, what's going on? Do I care about these people? Not particularly. I don't know who I could recommend this film to other than yourself. Like, I don't know anyone who would get a kick out of this. So I'm kind of like, probably didn't enjoy it and probably wouldn't recommend it. It's not terrible. It's not great. It's a film that we watched this year. That's about as good as it's going to get for me, I think. Was Nicolas Cage good or was Nicolas Cage bad, though?
I thought he was great. I thought he was doing that thing where he knows he's taking the piss. Like where he's done films where he's clearly just not bothered, and he's doing it for a favour or he's doing it for money in that period of time. This, you can see he was having a great old time, and he was rolling around, wearing a ridiculous wig, and it was like the glory days. Well, the glory days of this podcast, anyway.
Yeah.
Where you think, yeah, if you say Nicolas Cage, this is the kind of performance you expect. And there was a few crazy moments. Not many, not too many. And he's a bit philosophical sometimes. But yeah, I thought he was actually good in this.
I feel like it was a fairly standard performance of this genre. I think the film would have been worse off without Nicolas Cage, though.
Absolutely.
So I think I'm going to give him a good. I don't think he was outstanding, but he was the best thing in this film. I don't think that's difficult, though, in fairness. I don't know what, maybe it's just because he had a beard and long hair that I was kind of expecting it to be like Army of One. Do you remember the one we saw where he goes off to find fucking Osama bin Laden? I think I was expecting that, which didn't help when it very much isn't that kind of a film. Yeah. To answer the question, Stu, finish the sentence. If you enjoyed The Retirement Plan, you may also like
any of Jason Statham's films of the last 10 years. So I'll go with Beekeeper. So that's got a bit of CIA kind of used to work for us, but now you've gone rogue, and that kind of, there's a lot of that in that film. It's a lot of stupidity, a lot of explosions, a lot of bad acting. It was basically the same film, but on a bigger budget.
Yeah.
But did you see though? There is a Statham film in the Netflix top 3 this week.
Is there?
Oh,
Which one's this?
Let's get it up. For the
And the film.
Cellular.
So I don't even know what that is, Stu.
Kim Basinger, Chris Evans, Jason Statham.
Oh, my top 3's got fucking American Manhunt, O.J. Simpson. Oh, that's the programs.
It was definitely in the top 3 yesterday.
It's at 5th on mine now.
Oh, it's dropping. Need to get it back up there.
It is. Oh, God, he's got fucking Chris Evans. Jesus.
William H. Macy.
I do like William H. Macy. I mean, I'd watch that. It's got the state in 2004. I mean, that's got to be coming up to Crank. Is that 2007? Crank 6, something like that.
I think it was 6. Crank.
Crank might be my favourite Statham film. I love Crank. It's a tremendous movie. It's the closest thing we've had to Grand Theft Auto on TV. Just amazing. So if you like the retirement plan, I'm sort of weighing up between two Dave Bautista films. The Killer's Game that we
Yeah.
spoke about from last year, because he's planning for his retirement, so to speak, in that movie. There's a lot of other big name actors in there that I think he worked really well with and banters off them a bit like Cage does. So there's that one. Well, there's one that we discussed on our other podcast, Final Score. And again, he's just a big silly bollocks film that was great fun, but he's kind of shit at the same time.
I was thinking about that earlier as well because they were, on the Football Ramble quiz today, they said about the last ever game that West Ham played at Upton Park, and it's like against Man United, but who scored the last ever goal there? And all I could think about was Final Score. I couldn't think of the actual game itself.
I mean, Final Score is more important than anything else that ever happened at Upton Park, let's be honest. Yeah, I would check that out if you're listening now. It's on the Wolves Fancast feed where me, Stu, Matt, is it just the three of us on that one? I can't remember.
It might have been Rich or OG Rich or Dave, maybe. Did we get Dave back? I can't remember. It was a while ago.
I can't remember. It's been a while, but yeah, great film. Absolutely tremendous. Right, okay, so that's us done this week. Next 2 weeks, we're going to be looking at the Oscars throughout the 21st century. We're going to be doing Butcher's Crossing as the Nick Cage film. I don't know anything about that one. Haven't seen it. I think it's a relatively new one as well. He seems to sneak out in films. I don't know. Right, let's just pull it up on IMDb. Butcher's Crossing. Yes, he kind of looks like John Travolta with the beard and the bald head. It looks like it's another Western.
Oh, Prime Video.
Essentially. Directed by Gabe Polsky. I don't know who that is. I don't know. Oh, Xander Berkeley's in it. I know him.
Oh, 24.
And absolutely nobody else. Yeah, don't recognise anybody else on that one. But that's not to say it's going to be a great, great film. An Ivy League dropout travels to the Colorado wilderness where he joins a team of buffalo hunters on a journey that puts his life and sanity at risk. So we're going back to Western Cage then, by the looks of it, next week, Stu.
There's going to be
Hopefully it's better than... Very possibly. Very possibly. Right, okay. So that's us this week. Make sure you've got us on your podcatchers. Any emails to cagefightingpod@gmail.com and socials @cagefightingpod. For this week, Stu, would you like to say goodbye?
Take care, everyone. Gordon's alive.
And it's goodbye from me. And remember, be excellent to each other.